What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Middle Earth. My name is Bludborn, and in this video we're going to be talking about the legacies you should be using on your legendary items and weapons in an AOE damage situation on your champion. So let's go ahead and dive right into this one. So I've got my legendary panel here pulled up, and we're going to take a look at the weapon first. Now there's really a few crucial ones that we need to take a look at, and we'll talk about legacies and relics as well. Some of the bigger ones that you're gonna want to have pretty much in any scenario, but we're still talking about AOE. Number one is going to be our critical damage multiplier. It goes up to 174% at tier 83, which is the max tier on this. Obviously we want to get our area of effect skill damage, our AOE skill damage, up. That goes up to 34.8% damage. There are two that go in conjunction with a skill rend. We have our rend armor reduction, which reduces a target's armor by 8,700, and then the bleed damage that goes along with that, and that increases it by 87% as well. There are also some traits that get tied into this as well. You do have deep strikes, which will actually modify your rend bleed damage. So that's a good one to have all tied up together, because you're really increasing that sustained damage with your bleeds. Even though the champs don't have a whole lot of bleeds, you're still using that to maximize the amount of damage that you're outputting. One of the other ones that you're going to really want to look at, in my opinion, is having the battle frenzy cooldown. Not only does it reduce the cooldown by 20 seconds, but it does give you that 6,300 physical mastery as well while it's active. Now, while that's not a ton by today's standards in the mastery curve, it's still nice to have, and it's not necessarily just a throwaway legacy. Now, those are the biggest ones that you're going to be looking at for your weapon for AOE. Now, if you want to get into a discussion about one-handed versus two-handed, that's a different topic altogether. These will apply whether you are doing a one-handed weapon or a two-handed weapon. It does not matter. Now let's take a look at the relics that we use. Now, me personally, I'm still using Grand Veils, settings, runes, and relics in a lot of the scenarios. So let's take a look at these. I'm using the Grand Veil setting of Brutality, which is going to be crit, parry, and evade. It's a good chunk of critical. Critical is very hard to come by for a champion, mainly because we're focusing on our might, our vitality, and our mastery and finesse. So trying to get all of those, and also getting enough mitigation to compete in some of the higher tier dungeons, critical is kind of hard to come by. Now, a lot of the jewelry will have finesse and crit tied together, so that kind of works out in your favor, but it's up there as a more difficult stat to obtain, just like tactical mitigation is. So you're going to look at see a lot of critical in here, and you're going to see a lot of mitigation. Now, if we look at our gem, I am using the Grand Veils gem of Vitality, and that's going to have Vitality and crit defense. This is a one that there's not a whole lot of good gems out there for DPS, so this is a good one just to kind of throw in there, round out your survivability. Nothing too crazy here. And with our rune, if you're fortunate enough to be in a raid group that was doing tiers 2 and 3 of Anvil, this is actually a really good one to have. This is actually the Greater Winter Stith Rune of Striking, and I believe there is one out of the Veils as well. And the runes and relics and settings, that stuff has not all been updated for Minas Morgul, so you're still looking at that being your best bet. So you can see here, this is 7,396 critical rating, and that base combat damage modifier, which is very, very good to have, because that's just going to up your overall damage per second. And then if you do have a craft, which actually the Veils devices don't actually have to be crafted by you. You can actually make those and trade them and sell them and all that kind of stuff, which is nice, because previously the higher end relics, that was not the case. So the highest one that you can do crafted right now is the Veils Device of Battle, 978 might, 9246 crit, and 8810 physical mastery. That is a great relic to have in there. So if you don't have a craft that's available to you, or you don't have people that are available to you to craft something like that, because it does take some resources to make as well, would definitely encourage you to try to get a craft up that can make that for you, and see if you can get one of those made, since the materials are from the last raid and the last update. Prices on those might come down a little bit, but with people running less of that content, that might bring the price back up. So if you don't have that opportunity, then I would suggest just making the highest guild one that you can, by getting a craft up that can do that. Now let's take a look at the rune for the champ. Yes, I know you guys are going to say I need to repair my stuff. I always need to repair my stuff. With the rune, there's really just a couple main ones that we want to focus on that really are going to drive up your damage. There's an obvious one in here that is the bottom one on my list here. Blade line AOE power cost actually comes with, when you get into the higher tiers of it, it does come with AOE skill critical damage, and at the highest tier that's going to be 13.2%. That's pretty good. Anytime you can get more critical damage out of your skills, as a DPS class, that is a wonderful thing to do. Now the three that I really want to talk about are mainly going to be Raging Blade, Fury of Blades, and Blade Wall. These are must-haves on an AOE rune. And the reason I say that is, in your traits, you have traits that directly modify those skills. You have Raging Blade damage, which will increase 40% off the base, and then you get another 34.8% off the base in this one on your legacy. Same deal with Fury of Blades. You have a trait that activates that, so you definitely want to augment that by using this one. 34.8% damage from fervor. So if you are attacking at full 5 fervor, and that is an important piece of that, sometimes you end up using Fury of Blades as a filler, if it's just what skill is available and you got to keep your rotation going. That's understandable. You should be trying to use Fury of Blades at max fervor, so you're getting the maximum damage output out of it, and you're taking full advantage of the 34.8% from this. Blade Wall is the most interesting of these in my opinion, mainly because you're getting a huge bonus in your traits. It's 100% damage bonus to Blade Wall, and if you actually have your max targets in your AoE spec, which you should, you're going to be hitting 13 targets with Blade Wall with 100% increase off of the virtue, and another 52.2% off the base. So Blade Wall is a very, very important skill. Now this actually just changed in around Anvil, a little prior before that, just a little bit. Blade Wall wasn't as hard of a hitter. It was still a good skill and a good rotational skill to use. But the changes that have been made over the last several updates have really made Blade Wall a very high damage output skill, and it should be used a lot in your rotation. One last thing I want to mention about champ rune legacies for AoE is exchange of blows. Now, exchange of blows, you're going to get that as a passive through putting your virtue points in. So this is a great one to have because you're going to increase your overall damage, not just anything. This is going to be just a damage modifier. If you look at the tooltip for the skill, it is plus 34.8 melee damage and the 50% reflect. So this should be up a lot. You should be using this all the time when it's available to you. And it's really only off cooldown for 25 seconds. Or on cooldown for 25 seconds because the buff lasts for 15, cooldown's 40, so you only have a little downtime there in between. As far as the relics go for your AoE, we follow the same thing that we do with our weapon in this case. We're using the Grand Veil's setting of Brutality. We're using the Grand Veil's Gem of Vitality. And then also we're using the Last Alliance Rune of Force. Now this one's a little bit older. This one is one of the Mordor ones. There's really just not a good rune for your rune. So this one's pretty decent though. You're still looking at about 3,500 mastery rating and 2,237 crit. So that's pretty good. And then lastly, you're still looking at your Veil's Divisive Battle. So again, same things apply to the rune as it does the weapon. If you have the ability to get the craft up to do that, I highly encourage it. If you don't, just do the highest that you can or the highest that you can afford. Throw something in that slot if you don't have that ability. But those are the must-haves in my opinion on all of the things as far as an AoE setup for the champion. Make sure that you're getting all those up to 83, which is tough because getting all the scrolls of empowerment and all your crystals and everything. So that is what I would suggest. As with anything on this channel, if you guys see anything that is hey Blood, why are you doing it that way when you know we do it this way and this is a higher, I love that kind of discussion. On the last video, something was pointed out that I had changed and I had inadvertently changed, and I was actually very grateful to call out because it actually changed some of the damage. So use this also as a platform for discussion. That's fine. And make sure that you guys are all checking out all the other social media posts, all of the other live streams, and that is where I'm going to leave this one for today. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you next time.